3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon. Happy March, everybody, and welcome aboard the Postgame Show alongside Elijah Campbell. I'm Jay Phillips. Thank you for being with us. A lot to get to on today's program. Coach Beamer has spoken. Coach Mike Furry has been introduced as the new wide receivers coach. As Shane said, didn't think I'd be doing it again, but here we are. Hey, things happen in life, but we'll let you hear a little bit of what both coaches had to say this afternoon. I hope there is baseball tonight. We'll find out in just a little while, I think. John Whittle is going to be with us at 4:15 to preview the series, regardless. Based on the weather in downtown Columbia today, it's a little dicey. But, hey, fingers crossed. You know, fingers crossed.
You say you don't prefer playing baseball in, 40-degree weather and constant rain?
And rain? No. I don't mind. But Coach Kingston and Coach Bakich might not like that. So, I don't know. But we'll see what Whittle has to say coming up. Drive around the SEC, a lot to get to ahead of a huge Carolina men's basketball game tomorrow. A sellout crowd expected both days, I believe, or at least very close to that. So that and more. But before we do anything else, we're happy to have – I thought you had been in here before. Pull that microphone up to you just a little bit there. But South Carolina Associate Athletics Director Chance Miller hanging out with us here this afternoon. Good to have you.
Yeah,
How you doing?
Thank you for having me.
You want to take the AD role for a second? Are we playing baseball tonight?
You know, we are trying to find a window that we can play baseball, so we're trying to delay the announcement as much as possible.
I hear you.
Try to find a time to be able to play. Everybody wants to play it. They want to see this series. And
I have a solution. I've told Coach Tanner before, I have a solution. You build a dome. It's that easy. Just build a dome.
I don't think he's going to let us touch his stadium.
No, he loves that place.
Yeah,
his facility.
Yeah, it's his facility.
That's what I like about it. It's not just a ballpark.
I tell you what, though, it's a beautiful ballpark.
It is.
And, you know, he was very intimately involved in building that and all the finishing touches. And when you walk in it, it doesn't look like it is that old.
Right.
And then you start thinking about
15,
it.
This is 15 seasons, yeah.
Yeah. So it's held up pretty well.
It has. My favorite.
Let's not tell him that, though.
No, well, Harry. The favorite story is the tunnel coming down to the dugout, and that it's not decorated, that it's all nice gray walls and everything else the way it's supposed to be. Yeah. Old school.
Old school.
Yeah, so I do like that. Chance was intimately involved in the gigantic announcement of Liverpool and Manchester United coming to town. Many of you probably already know that Chance is also the football administrator, so we'll get into a few things around football from his point of view this afternoon. He's going to hang out with us from 3 until 4. John Whittle, by the way, is scheduled to be with us at 4:15, and we'll get some baseball in at some point. And I imagine the two head coaches are working on several potential contingencies, especially for tomorrow, with a game scheduled to be in Columbia. Maybe there's an opportunity to do something interesting. I don't know. I honestly, I've tried to, sometimes I will text people and try to find things out, but I figured today they've been pretty busy, so I've actually left it alone.
It's not your normal 3-game weekend series.
No, it's not. It's not. But looking forward to getting some baseball in, and we'll have those for you here, of course, plus basketball this weekend. Again, Dawn's team winning quite easily. The bench, was it 58 bench points last night?
I want to say it was actually in the 60s.
60s?
I think it was 64 is what it ended up.
Wow.
Let me double-check that.
Okay.
I heard it on the broadcast after the game, but I think they broke 60 bench points.
Man.
Which would have outscored Arkansas.
Yeah.
As a team.
I mean, well, they're geared up. That's what I said in my tweet last night. They're geared up for what's coming this month and I suppose into a little bit of April. But hopefully into a little bit of April. Dawn would get mad at me if I said that they're definitely going to be playing in April.
I mean, that would assume they're playing in the Final Four, but if you look at the bracket projection that ESPN had last night, they may or may not have put Iowa in South Carolina's region.
I saw that.
You think that was strategic?
I saw that.
I know that was strategic. I'm at the point where I know that was strategic.
Do we call that strategic, or do we just call that savvy marketing? I don't know. Or is there...
Or just having a good old time.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of all the above.
So, again, we got all those things for you. And today around 4:45 and again at 5:45, please be listening. We'd like you to listen continuously, of course, but if you can't. But if you would like to win tickets to the game at Segra Park, we will be having 2 more Gamecock baseball trivia opportunities. We had fun with that yesterday. We disappointed a couple of people. We don't like to disappoint people, but, you know, it happens.
We'll do it.
Yeah.
We don't like to do it, but we'll do it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not beneath disappointing somebody.
No, I mean, life is filled with disappointment. You just got to learn to roll with it. But we also made 2 people very happy. So there's that.
Pros outweigh the cons.
Yeah, that's right. Now, we're happy to have Chance with us here, and I really did think you'd been in here before, but I know we've had you on the show a few times, but glad to have you in here for the first time. Let's jump in before we get into a lot of things around the Gamecocks. I want to focus on your role with this Liverpool United matchup, and I will tell you that someone else in the athletics department did give me a heads up a few days out, and I yelled out an expletive that I cannot say on the air because I was so surprised. That person knew that I was a very big soccer fan. For full disclosure, as I do most Fridays, I am wearing some form of Arsenal gear, and I am today. I've got an Arsenal pullover on today, a little quarter zip. I'm a big soccer fan, have been a long, long time. And I didn't know at first where he was taking me until it all kind of came together, and then he said the teams. And then I went, at Williams-Brice, right? Like that, like I was like, you can play at the graveyard, and boom, all of a sudden you're basically sold out. I mean, which I think is amazing. Take us through how the University of South Carolina and Columbia, South Carolina was in the mix, I suppose, with cities like Atlanta or Washington or Dallas or Chicago for a game like this.
Yeah, so I think you have to go back to right around COVID, when COVID happened, right? We're sitting there and we're trying to figure out, are we going to play football? Are we going to play basketball? If you don't play those, your whole athletics department budget is built on 7 home football games and a couple of basketball games. Mm-hmm. And we just thought, you've got to be able to diversify. We have all these great facilities in Columbia. We've got a great arena, a great football stadium. Our training facilities are some of the best in the country. And how can we utilize that to help our athletics department, but not just the athletics department? How can we help our university with branding nationally and internationally? And then how can we help the city of Columbia and the state of South Carolina grow? And we had talked about some of these friendly matches. I mean, you look up at Bank of America Stadium, I think it was a Wednesday night in the middle of the summer, they had Chelsea play a friendly up there, sold 65,000 tickets, sold it out on a Wednesday night.
Right.
And we kept thinking, this would be something we'd really be interested in. And it was a Wednesday night. I think it was probably 2-3 weeks before Thanksgiving break came up. We had a fundraiser over at the Rice with the Gamecock Club. And I got an email from Hugh Nicholson, who I knew in my prior work at the NCAA, and he was at the Washington Commanders. And he emailed me and said, hey, would you be free later tonight for a Zoom call with my partner? I thought, later tonight? That's kind of odd, but sure. I mean, we work all kinds of hours, so right. I'll jump on. So jumped on with him, and he had just recently taken a role with TEG Sport, which is a huge international promotions company. And he said, we're looking at maybe bringing a friendly to a college environment, and you guys have one of the best game day environments that we've seen. And we've worked really hard on that. Coach Tanner has done a tremendous job in giving us the resources to really take our game day environment up a level. And I think you saw it this year with Kentucky and Rude being there. I mean, what a special night that was. And they saw that too.
Right.
And they thought, this could be something we could take that European football, crazy soccer fandom and pair it with the SEC. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. I know I need to talk with Coach Tanner, but yeah, we're in.
Right.
And he's not even told me the teams yet, right?
Right.
And I'm thinking, okay, we might have one big team, somebody with a friendly. And we started talking. And he said, well, I want to take 2 Premier League teams to Williams-Brice Stadium. And I said, well, if you're going to give me 2 of the bigger ones, right? And when he told me, and you'll hate me for this, Arsenal was in that conversation.
Yeah,
they were part of that Rivals in Red tour.
Yeah.
And he told me Manchester United and Liverpool. And I told Hugh, I said, Hugh, we're going to sell this out immediately. And they were all pretty cautiously optimistic, but we had a great group. Our athletics department has wonderful people that really, in the midst of the transition between football season and basketball season and getting ready, and you're working a ton of hours, we got a group of 16 people together, from the arena staff to our facility staff to Clark Cox and his crew and the turf management, and brought everybody together. And they put in so many hours. I mean, there wasn't a day that went by where one of these teams wasn't calling with a question or coming to visit us. We had a Sunday afternoon after one of the women's basketball games where we actually took the Liverpool team, or not the team, but the management group,
right.
And we took them to the women's basketball game. And they'd never seen a collegiate women's basketball game.
Okay.
And when the fire towers went off and everybody went crazy and the lights were going nuts, they looked at us and they were like, oh, this is amazing. Right. We can't wait to play here. Right. But it was a Sunday afternoon after everybody had worked such long hours, and they jumped in. And I think we really sold it. We were competing with some big cities for this. I mean, and you look at what they paired us with.
There isn't a city in America that would say no to this.
No,
there isn't one city in America that would say no to this.
And they paired us with L.A. and Philly, right? And by the way, we sold out first,
right?
But before both of those cities, and they paired us with it. And after a lot of prodding and poking the promoter, I asked him. I said, what other universities did we beat out? And he won't tell me the universities, but he gave me the locations, and I can't say them on the radio, but very big universities. And I think what really put us over the top was that personal service that our team was giving the two clubs. And there was never a no. It was always a let's find a way to be able to get there.
You mentioned one of the things that I tell people, because I know soccer is still very, it's very much a niche sport in the United States. I get that. It's funny, though, when I was in college, South Carolina played for the national championship in men's soccer, and we see what Shelley's team is doing. So I think there are certainly a lot of fans around here, but I know it's not where other sports are. But what I remind people, because I've been a fan a long time, especially in England, but really across Europe, it is the feeling around the sport of professional football over there, soccer over there, is virtually identical to college football here. There's recruiting. Mm-hmm. It's every town has their team, just like every state or community has their. I mean, look at we have Carolina, we have Clemson, there's Auburn and Bama. You get it. Coaches are moving around all the time. Players are moving around. It's so eerily similar in terms of the vibe and the living it every day, unlike the NFL, which I know is America's biggest sport, but I don't think there's that same feeling of connection to clubs. Mm-hmm. And I really think, like a lot of college football fans could almost easily morph their way into being English soccer fans.
Yeah, I can't get over the amount of people that once we announced this told me they were a Manchester United fan or a Liverpool fan or that they were a Premier League team. I knew I was on the right track when I told my 7-year-old son, Kason, that this game was coming.
Right.
He was the first one I told. Yeah. And every weekend morning, he's watching Premier League.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And he jumped up and down on the couch and was like screaming and yelling. He was all excited. And I thought, okay, well, we've hit a home run here, right? Yeah. 7-year-old likes it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the amount of people that came out for that. And what's going to be really exciting with this, we're working with both teams. They want to take their traditions and our traditions and intermingle them throughout the game, right? We showed them what Gamecock Walk looked like, where you drop off the team, they walk through all the fans, and they're not used to doing something like that. And they said, you know what, we're in. We're going to do this. Cool. We're going to be there with your fans. We're going to bring our fans in. We're talking about doing tutorials on the songs that they sing inside the stadium, in their home stadiums. Been able to put that on the video board. I haven't talked to Shane, Don, and Lamont yet, but they're going to help me do some tutorials on one of Justin King's videos.
Okay.
So we're really going to try to marry that together and make it exciting for everybody. And this is something that we want to show that Columbia can do this. And I think we are right now with the sales, being able to sell this game out so quickly. We want to bring more of these events to the city and to the state and be able to showcase our university and our athletics department and grow this. A couple of weeks before this came about, Coach Tanner and I actually went over and met with Mayor Reckerman. Yeah. And he said, is there any way you can help us get bigger events, to the city? And didn't know this one was coming.
Yeah.
It worked out pretty well.
Yeah. I want to talk about that angle on something relative to where things used to be around here. We'll get into that. And again, I've likened it to one of the biggest rock acts of all time coming to Williams-Brice also when I was in college to throw back to those days. Plenty more. We'll get into a lot of football with Chance as well. What's going on around the conference, around Gamecock football. He is Carolina's football administrator. We got a lot to do. Associate AD Chance Miller hanging out in studio in the 3 o'clock hour on this Friday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. It's the postgame show. 20 minutes after 3 o'clock Friday afternoon. Happy March. Hope you enjoyed your leap day. Hope nobody got too hurt in doing something different once every 4 years. And if yesterday was your birthday, that's cool. And to those of you who may have had a kid yesterday, do us a favor. About a year from now, call in and let us know if you're celebrating that kid's birthday today or you're on the 28th of February. Because there was we didn't have a debate about that, did we?
We were split on it.
Yeah.
Like, if we had that birthday, which one we'd celebrate it on. I would celebrate mine March 1st, obviously. As I have a March birthday anyway.
Right.
So I'm a little more impartial to the month, and it's the best month of the year.
There you go.
March Madness.
And I just said February 28th because, hey, go ahead and, sooner you can, the better.
See, that too.
Yeah.
And you can't argue that. It's a good. That is a good argument against celebrating it on March 1st.
Did you do anything differently on Leap Day?
I honestly didn't know it was leap day. I've got a 7 and 5-year-old, and I work in college athletics. I don't know what day of the week
I believe
it is
you.
most times.
Yeah, I believe you.
I haven't slept in a while. So.
Yeah, I remember those days.
The days will merge together for you.
Well, I remember. I have 4, and I remember by the time my oldest was about 10. And I don't work in college athletics, but since I do what I do, and back then I was working with the Gamecock Network and things like that, I was the same way. I was like, yes, whatever the question might be, sure. I don't know. Sounds good, right? Like I had no idea what I was doing, so I'm with you. And you guys are a lot busier. He's Chance Miller, Carolina Associate AD, hanging out with us here, talking about landing Manchester United and Liverpool. Without going into too much detail, I was just telling you off air about a couple of stories about some former athletics directors who maybe didn't take the same point of view you guys are now in the athletics department and on campus about working with the city, showcasing everybody. I mean, Carolina is, after all, in Columbia. So, again, without being me being too negative about the Rolling Stones going to Clemson or the Carolina Panthers going to Clemson, after wanting to come to Williams-Brice, I might add. Take us through what that relationship is like these days. And I know you can't maybe say what's coming, but what more might you like to do with the city?
Our relationship with the city and with the state and with our local and state government it's been phenomenal. Trying to put on this game and get it launched, again, worked with the mayor, worked with the governor's office, worked with the Experience Columbia crew to be able to showcase what we could do and what are some additional things that we could add to make this really special for Manchester United and Liverpool. And we're working on that right now. We're going through it. We actually met this morning. The promoter called me with Liverpool. They're talking about doing a night before type special event in the arena. So I'm hoping to be able to give you some more in a couple of weeks.
Everybody learn the words to "You'll Never Walk Alone."
Yeah, I think they're looking at it going, man, we sold out so quickly. There's a lot of support here. Let's do a whole weekend of it, right? But those are things that we need to keep doing. Like I said when we were talking off air, a lot of things in college athletics is changing, or they are changing. They're constantly changing, and to be able to work with the city and state and bring in big type events like this, it helps everyone. And that's where we should be. We should all be going in the same direction. And it helps us showcase our athletics department to recruits and other students, but the university as a whole. I mean, this game on August 3rd is going to be broadcast internationally.
Yeah.
And Columbia gets to be on the forefront of that. That's special.
Yeah.
And I really think that we all do in athletics, that there's a lot of untapped potential that we could really bring a lot to Columbia. And I know you probably saw a little bit last year about the RFI that we sent out for the potential project, the development in and around the stadium.
Because I told Ray I wanted a golf course down there.
Yeah,
and his football coach weighed in with that as well.
Yeah,
so
and we've been working on it, and hopefully we'll have some announcements pretty soon and be able to start rolling things out to the public and to our fans and our donor base. But those are this soccer game is a perfect example of what we want to keep bringing in. Bring concerts, bring soccer events, bring anything and everything that is going to shine a positive light on our athletics department, university, city, and state. Yeah. That's where we need to be.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going to take this too. Was that this is not just an opportunity to have something that's cool here in our backyard, but maybe be able to show that we can do a lot of different things in the future as well. I know that's probably something you've been discussing with other people of like what else we can do, especially if this is pulled off well, which I have no doubt that it would.
Yeah, we have, like I said earlier, we have such a great team in athletics, and we have a lot of resources that we can draw on. This was a perfect storm. You know, we had been talking about how do we bring our Colonial Life staff and our football event staff together to be able to pull off something really special. And when this happened, I contacted Lexi Boone over at Colonial Life with Sue Kenyon and his staff with Alec and Shannon and Chanel, and we paired them with Jeff Davis, Clark Cox, Megan Kennington, Chris Rogers, and our development staff with Megan and Wayne and everybody, and Kendra, and just said, okay, let's all come together. I know you're used to dealing with a promoter on this side or with a football team on this side, but let's try to pull off something really special. Let's roll out the red carpet for these teams and blow them away. And they did. I'll give you an example. Dan Stahl in our group, who works in our Gamecock Club and helps with ticket sales and retention, he and his staff have built this great data system, and they were able to show our reach in Atlanta, Raleigh, Jacksonville, Charlotte, that you could show our Gamecock Club members that live there that had went on Fanatics and purchased our gear, but had also purchased Manchester United or Liverpool gear, and that we could reach out to those people. And they've developed that in connection and partnership with our business school here. And that's something really special that I think when you go to these professional stadiums, they didn't get that personal touch. It's kind of like, hey, we're a big city. We've got this facility. Take it or leave it, right? We have people that are invested in that and want to showcase this university and showcase this city and state.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. And one of the things I've said, too, in terms of the logistics of a game day, and this has been decade upon decade, it's like running a small city. That almost is probably the least of anybody's concerns. You've got two mega clubs coming in that are with, let's face it, a bunch of 8-figure players and coaches that are going to be here. So it's a little bit different from that perspective. But beyond that, putting on a sold-out show is quite normal.
We're used to putting on really big events at Williams-Brice Stadium. I think this one's going to be really enjoyable for me because it doesn't matter who wins. Right. I don't have to pace up and down the sidelines worrying about what the Sunday and Monday is going to look like following
a little
game.
more stress-free.
Yeah, a little more stress-free. My wife's not going to have to text me in the middle of the game and say, hey, you need to remove yourself from the sidelines. You're getting a little too animated.
Well, the good news is, even for the clubs involved, it might not matter too much. It's a friendly. But let's face it, when they play each other, and the fans in the stands are going to care.
They are.
That's the thing. They're going to care. We'll talk about Gamecock football, things going on around the Southeastern Conference in college athletics. Chance Miller, Gamecock Associate AD, hanging out with us here. You are listening to the Friday Postgame Show. I mentioned a few minutes ago, maybe you had a child born yesterday on Leap Day, which is cool for them in 4, 8, 12, 16 years and beyond. But they'll get older every year regardless. And if your family is growing or you've got different needs around the house, you want to make some home improvements, want to consolidate some debt or other things, a home equity line of credit could be a terrific option for you. And Palmetto Citizens Federal Credit Union is ready to help you out. They've been doing it for more than 85 years across the Midlands. Their home equity loans offer a great low rate, plus no closing cost, no application fees. Unlock your home's equity. Easily access that line of credit over a 10-year draw, so you can get things done as you need them done. It's easy to do. Just go to palmettocitizens.org or visit any of their 14 convenient Midlands locations. My wife and I are customers. We like the Millwood branch right near our house. Whichever one you choose, great people. Palmetto Citizens. Achieve your potential. Talking a lot of things around Williams-Brice, Columbia, Gamecock Athletics, Liverpool, Manchester United, and more. Chance Miller is with us, Gamecock Associate Athletics Director, hanging out in studio. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. Our good friend John Whittle will be joining us next hour, hoping that we get some Carolina-Clemson baseball in this weekend. We will be giving you a chance to win tickets to the game at Segra Park. Elijah and I have Gamecock baseball trivia coming your way around 4:45 and again around 5:45.
Hope you all studied.
That's right. Had some fun with that yesterday.
Got 2 tests.
It's multiple choice. So just open up, go online if you want to. The Gamecock Baseball Media Guide is online, and just start.
Yeah, just start reading as much as you can. And here in like an hour and 15.
Yeah, and
Hopefully prepared.
I'll virtually guarantee that the answers will be found in the Gamecock Baseball Media Guide or record book.
They should be.
Should be.
I was going to say, unless you're missing a few pages in yours.
Yeah.
But
well, online you better not be.
Yeah, you never know.
GamecocksOnline.com. Check it out. Chance is hanging out with us. We've been talking a lot about the Liverpool United matchup and how Carolina and Columbia were so fortunate to be able to do that. Let's talk about the team that calls it home. That's your area of expertise with Coach. Last year was rough. Right now, we see things changing. We see revenues coming in, and maybe in some ways South Carolina football trying to reestablish its place in the conference. As a football administrator, first from a general standpoint, and then more specifically, kind of take us through what it is that you are most involved in on a regular basis. There we go. You good?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, good.
That's right.
From a football sport administrator, it's really trying to be a resource to the coaches and the staff over there to make sure that they have everything they need to be able to compete, work with your student athletes, make sure they're getting what they need from a student athlete well-being. Is the nutrition up to par? Are they getting what they need from academics, and are they actually fulfilling their academic requirements? Right. Every night I get a spreadsheet from our academic advisors on where our student athletes fall, and if there's an issue or something is not being handled correctly, it's working with the position coach and the head coach and our director of ops to fix that. But I'm blessed to be able to work with Coach Beamer and his staff. You talk about a tremendous staff to be able to walk into the building every day and just enjoy being there. It's been a blessing. And I know last year was not where we wanted to be. It's not where any of us wanted to be. We had a lot of injuries. Anytime you have that many injuries on the offensive line in this conference, it is going to be tough. But I can tell you we're going in the right direction. I mean, the first 2 years, what they were able to do, winning the bowl game up in Charlotte and then going to Jacksonville, and what a tremendous bowl game and a testament to our fan base that they went down and they sold out Jacksonville in the Jaguar Stadium, and they just dwarfed the Notre Dame fans.
Right.
It's supposed to be this national brand. I mean, we just outshined. And I wish we could have gotten the win, but what a great season to be able to cap it off.
It's a good game.
And then going into this year, I know it's not where we wanted to be, but I keep telling everybody, with the fan base we have, with the coach we have and Coach Beamer, and the direction we are going, we're going to reach some really special milestones in the future. And I'm hoping that starts this year and starts quickly. But you look at where we were this year, we were 2-6 coming into a 4-game homestand. And when you're 2-6, it is easy for 18 to 22-year-olds to phone it in and just say, you know what, the season just didn't work out, too many injuries. I mean, they had every chance to have an excuse, right, to be able to phone it in. And our fan base did too, right? We sold out all 4 games in that homestand. And if we make a couple of plays on offense, we're in a bowl game.
Yeah.
We're winning out, going to a bowl game, trying to go for 7 wins. And I don't want that to get lost on people, that the culture that they have created over there is really, really good. I mean, the guys want to be there. I've started this fall. Coach Day got on me, and he started working me out 3 to 4 days a week. Huh? Which, by the way, after 40, you don't get you're never not sore. I'm just in a perpetual state of soreness every day, and he's killing me. He's running me through like I'm an athlete. I'm not an athlete anymore. Those days are way behind me.
Wait till you get to 50.
Oh, man. Once I go in there, though, I'll go in there late at night after my kids go to bed. I'll go back over, and it'll be 9:30, and the guys are over there.
Yeah.
They're just hanging out. Used to you'd see guys as soon as practice is over, they're out of the building. And I think they're recruiting a special group of guys. Now, look, with the transfer portal nowadays, you're going to have guys leave. You're going to have guys come and going. But the core group that he has is really, really special. I'll give a shout out. Nick Harbor, didn't catch as many balls as he wanted to this past year and is really trying to work on his skills. He's in the middle of track season right now. And I was over there the other night, and he and his buddy are on the jugs machine. He's over there catching 1,000 balls at 9:30 at night. After he's went to school all day, he's went to track practice, and he's coming back out trying to make himself better. And we've got a really good group of new guys that have come in, really impressive. And I think they're good. They've plugged the holes that they needed to. I think we've got everything in place to be able to make a special run.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned enjoying working for not just Shane, but the coaching staff, and there's been a little bit of turnover, especially on the offensive side with a couple wide receivers coaches. Mike Furry had his introductory press conference today. New running backs coach, a little bit of change up. Sean's back, but what have you gotten to gather from some of the new faces that might be on this coaching staff?
Yeah, having Sean back is phenomenal. I love Coach Elliott. When I first came in here in 2013, I was in a different role. I worked in compliance, so I dealt with the coaches on a different aspect, right? Trying to tell them what rules they had to follow. How crazy is this, by the way? I'll have been here 11 years now in 2 weeks.
Wow.
And when I came here, I tried to tell athletes how they couldn't accept benefits, and now I'm helping to fundraise for the Garnet Trust and our collectives, right? So it's changed a lot. But Coach Elliott and I were here when he was last here, and had a phenomenal relationship with him, and couldn't be more excited to have him back and what he's going to be able to bring to the offensive staff. Coach Blackwell, I think, brings a wealth of knowledge just in terms of recruiting in this league and coaching in this league. And you look at some of the running backs he's produced, and man, he's got a stable of running backs right now.
Yeah.
We've got 3 to 4 really good-looking running backs in that room, and I'm excited to see what they can do, especially with that quarterback position. That we might have a little different dimension back there that you can utilize. So really excited about that. And then Coach Fury, I got to actually meet him finally in person today. I was out of town for the past couple of days with some donors and our development team trying to tour around some different facilities. So I got to talk to him on the phone. He's really excited to be here. And I heard from a lot of different people, former players, people in the community, people in the NFL that just couldn't speak, any more highly of him. So really excited about what he's going to be able to bring. I mean, you look at that offensive staff now, when you're in that offensive staff room, there's a lot of head coaching experience. There's a lot of play calling experience in that room. And I think that just everybody up. And I know Coach Dal Loggins is really, really excited. Dal and I spend a lot of time together. His son and my son play baseball together over at PBL. So we sit on those aluminum bleachers together and yell at the umpires.
You mentioned something, and from your point of view, I want to get this because you've been here a while, as you said, now more than a decade, but the want to. And I do think that matters. And as somebody who grew up here, who went to school here, when Shane talked about wanting this job, I'm just going to be honest, there really hasn't been a head coach that had come and said, I've been looking at this job. I want that. Shane does. And I feel like he does, I don't want to say goes out of his way, but makes a real point of trying to get as many people. Look, it's a transient business. I get it. And sometimes people say that there's a lot of guys out there that are just, dare I say, mercenaries. I understand that part of it too. So does Shane. He's been in it a long time. But take us through that point of it, of the want to relative to the, sure, it's a job.
Yeah, I was blessed. Coach Tanner brought me along on the head coaching search for Coach Beamer's position and for Coach Paris's position. I was still young in my career to be able to help hire a football coach and a men's basketball coach at an SEC school was something special for me. And we talked a lot about trying to find the right fit for South Carolina, right? Everybody always talks about you want the offensive guru or the defensive guru, or you want somebody that has been transient and been at a lot of different places. We wanted somebody that could be a general manager of a program, could hire good people, and could build a culture for South Carolina. There's nothing I can't stand more than when I hear, well, this is how Georgia does it, or this is how Clemson does it, or how Alabama does it. I don't care how they do it. We're unique. We're different, and we need to be different, and we need to do it how South Carolina needs to do it to be able to win and beat those teams. And Coach Beamer has all those qualities. He really does. And he's looking for people, and he's filling his staff with people that they have a chip on their shoulder, right? And they're going to come in and they're going to outwork you. They're going to out-recruit you. They're going to outwork you. And they're going to want to be here. And I think that says something. When you want to be here, that shows to the recruits. It shows to the student athletes. And it shows to the staff that work with you, from the academic staff to the nutrition staff to the strength conditioning and the athletic training staff. Those people want to be here, right? They're not real transient. They want to be here.
Right.
They want to make this a career, and they want people to work alongside of them that also want that. And I think we have that. We have that in a lot of our sports right now. And I know you want to talk about football and the soccer game stuff, but let me just give a shout out. We have 11 of 14 spring sports that are ranked right now. Coach Hall just took his track team, and our men's track team just finished 4th in the SEC. That's hard to do.
Right.
We were at the bottom last year. He's made a pretty drastic change. Our swim Coach Popel, our swim program, our women just went and finished one of the highest they've had since 2011. We've got coaches that have hired people that want to be here and they want to go that extra mile. And I think what's phenomenal too is you've got Shane and Don and Lamont. They're helping each other recruit. Yeah. They're going to each other's games. Coach Staley has the #1 team in the country. Her team is phenomenal. She's built a wonderful program with a great following, and she goes on ESPN and talks about Lamont the whole time. Yeah. That's special.
It is. It's fun to watch. It is. I want to talk to you about a few more things like that and get into a few things around some of your other areas of expertise. He's Chance Miller. Be right back. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the first hour of the post-game show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell. We're hanging out with South Carolina Associate Athletics Director Chance Miller, who oversees football, brought Liverpool and Manchester United to town. I have likened that match, by the way, to when the Stones came. I've already mentioned that once today, but Stones are going back on tour.
I would love to have them.
So that's all I'm saying.
Would love to have some concerts in the stadium. I know we're working on that, and Lexi and Sid and his staff are really trying to find the right fit.
They've been once that door got kicked open, and again, I was so disappointed when it initially was kept closed. But then, Rolling Stones, U2, Paul McCartney, Farm Aid, Guns N' Roses. That was a pretty cool run in the early 90s,
That's
man.
a good run.
Yeah, it was all right. I didn't go to Farm Aid. I think I was out of town. I was kind of bummed out. Willie and Mellencamp and all of them. That would have been cool, but I was not here for that. But the others I all went to. I was about 15 feet away from Flavor Flav. They opened for U2, and I was like, oh my God. It was in the parking lot. I was on a buddy's caboose.
Wait, so they opened for you two?
Yeah. And there's Flavor with that.
Public Enemy?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a very interesting. I would not have guessed.
Yeah.
You could have made me guess for hours who would have opened for you
And then
two.
Flavor Flav's big old clock right there. And I was like, oh my God, there's Flavor Flav right there. And he just kind of gave us a quick head nod and was on the bus. He was not going to stop and speak.
My only question was the clock accurate? I've always wondered that. He wears the big clock, but is it actually right or is it just a broke one that's only right twice?
I couldn't really tell.
That's unfortunate.
Couldn't really tell.
Well, I guess I'll never know now.
Yeah, but that was kind of cool. But we'll see. You work with the NCAA, and I only got a couple of minutes here, so just a couple of quick general things. As a football administrator, as an associate AD, y'all are involved in a lot of things right now. Is there angst around where college athletics are headed? Do you feel like, we've got this under control, we're just not sure exactly where the final destination is?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said we don't have angst, right? I mean, college athletics has drastically changed. Just look at the last 24 months. I mean, it's a constant change, right? And we're trying to predict the future of where that's going to come out. And I don't think you can. And if people tell you this is where I think college athletics is going to be, and I know they're going to be here, right, in 12, 24 months, I think they're lying. I think what we've tried to talk about and what Coach Tanner has done a really good job is going back to the core of we're here for the student athletes, right? We're here to do our best for the student athletes, to help them come in, have a great experience, help them play to the top of their talent level, and then graduate from the University of South Carolina. And then anything else, we're just going to have to be able to pivot. And that's what we're really working on in athletics right now, is trying to set everything up that we do moving forward that we can pivot quickly and we don't get stuck in something and fall behind, right? Because we're all competitive over there. We all want to win.
Right.
I don't like to lose. Neither does anybody else on our staff. And we've got to be able to be nimble at this point in time, because you don't know where it's going. I think a lot of people have ideas on where it's going, but I think we do need better structure and what that looks like. It's just you have so many outside influences now. You have the federal and state governments getting involved. You have the conference offices that all have differing opinions. College presidents all have differing opinions. And then you have the legal issues that have come out. I mean, we've got so many court cases going on across the country against the NCAA member institutions, and now you have certain schools that have, fought the labor movement, and now they're deemed employees at certain schools. So, where it falls out, I've got opinions on that.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're valid opinions. But we just need to keep working towards.
It's a sports talk show, Chance. All opinions are valid.
I know. I might get too far out there, though. Somebody will start quoting me. I'll get in trouble. Coach Tanner.
There's the rub for a guy like you. Yes.
Yeah, but
if you want to call in one day,
I might call in under a different name.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah. All aliases are accepted on the show.
But no, again, you just go down to the core of it. We're here for our student athletes to make it better for them. To let them reach their potential, graduate from the University of South Carolina, and put a great product on the court, the field, the pitch, and make our fans, our donors, and our alumni proud.
It's been great having you. Let's do this again sometime sooner rather than later. We'll definitely have you in as we get closer to the match and more of the fun that's going to surround that. But seriously, man, as a lifer, as a Carolina alum, I said this before, it's a big deal. Y'all did great to get this and showcase the city and the school. It's a big deal.
Thank you for having me on, and it's a pleasure to be able to work with such a great team over there.
Yeah, good stuff. He's Chance Miller. Lots to do with him every single day. We'll talk to him again soon. Hour 2, John Whittle's coming on. Be right back. 4 o'clock on this Friday afternoon. Welcome back in. It's the second hour of the postgame show. Jay Phillips and Elijah Campbell with you inside the Herndon Chevy Studios, downtown Columbia, South Carolina. Appreciate you being with us. Thanks again to Carolina Associate AD Chance Miller for hanging out with us here. Chance and his team responsible for bringing Liverpool and Manchester United to town this summer. Looking forward to that. And if you just tuned in, I did put in a request for Williams-Brice to host the Rolling Stones again.
Even at age 90.
30 years later. 32 years later, I think, maybe.
By the time they're able to get them here, are they still going to be around?
Yes. Most of them.
Time keeps on slipping into the future, and I don't know how much time there is to slip.
I think Steve Miller's going back on tour this year, too, man, to stay with that.
I am today 8 years old when I learned that he is still alive.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, Steve's good. Yeah, he's good.
Is he good?
Yeah, he's good.
That's a weird Mandela effect thing. I always just kind of assumed he wasn't.
No, he's good. Back on tour.
You ever have that, like a weird Mandela effect thing where it's like, oh, I thought.
There's been a few people that I can't think of any specifically right off the top of my head that I was like, oh, is he? Like, I thought he had, because sometimes you might think they did.
Joan Rivers is the number one for me. I was like almost upset that I didn't realize she was still alive.
And is she?
And then she's yeah. I thought she was dead.
Right.
Already. I thought she already left us by the time I remember seeing the notification on my phone that she did. This has been like what 4 or 5 years ago, but I remember seeing the notification being like, wait, she just did now.
Oh.
That's happened to a few celebrities.
Yeah.
I get Mandela affected pretty easily.
Well, I hope, I tell the story. I lament the fact COVID hit, and at the time we thought that might have been the Stones' last tour
Ever.
And I got tickets for both Charlotte and Atlanta because I really went. I've only seen the Stones twice, and it was a long time ago, including once here at Williams-Brice. And I really wanted to go. And the Atlanta show was the last show of the North American tour. So I figured that could have been like extra fun, right? Like maybe a few extra tunes, a little deep cuts or something like that. And again, COVID.
Didn't happen.
So I got refunded, which was good, including the fees.
Which accounts for like what, 30% of what you paid for?
There used to be a time apparently when you could get the ticket price. I just air quoted for those of you who aren't watching us on YouTube. Refunded, but the fees, they're like, well, hey, I mean, we still had to process the transaction. And I'm like, I don't care. If I'm taking something back at Belk, they had to process that transaction too. I get the whole thing back, including my tax money or whatever, like
whatever you paid for is coming back to you.
I mean, my $137 for the shoes I bought my kids, like, I said $137 because that's my Coming to America line. Not that I've ever actually taken a pair of shoes back for $100. And believe me, I do not own anything close to $137.
I was going to say, yeah. Well,
no, dude, not this guy.
High roller, Jay Phillips.
Listen, I was kind of mad the other day when I had to go get a new pair of New Balances, and I was like, are you serious? $70 for New Balances?
Hey, I actually wear New Balances right now that my girlfriend found at Goodwill that somehow fit. They were barely worn. Size 13s. Actually fit.
Wow.
$5.
Did you at least put like a Dr. Scholl's insert into the bottom of them?
No, we washed them. Make sure to wash them.
I'm glad you washed them. I don't know. I see that. That's nice. I'm not big.
$5.
I'm not big on the wearing other people's shoes. Not because of any like smells or anything. Just because your feet are your feet.
Right.
They start to mold to the shoe.
Yeah.
So anyway,
these end up fitting, fairly well. I've got oddly shaped feet, and they end up fitting pretty well.
I should take my baseball cleats back to Goodwill, see if anybody wants those. Of course, they're now 30-year-old Nikes, but that's a whole other story. Speaking of baseball, I know a lot of you have called asking us, are they playing baseball? There has not yet been a decision. John Whittle will be joining us soon, and I am hopeful that John we'll have more information. Of course, we did just have a South Carolina athletics administrator in the house, and the best he could tell us. Now, he's in here, so he's not involved in any of these discussions, at least he wasn't at that time. And I can tell you that firsthand because he was sitting right here.
He was in discussions with us.
That's right. That's right. But he said, they're hopeful that there's a window, and that's it. But again, if you live in Greater Columbia, then you know that it's been crappy all day. There's no other way to put it. It is currently 49 degrees. It's been raining since about 8 o'clock this morning. Mm-hmm. At times it's been heavy. At times it's been light, but it really hasn't stopped all day. So the field will be very sloppy, even if you found that quote-unquote window. I would wonder, in all seriousness, how Coach Kingston and Coach Bakich feel about that. Sloppy field. It's March. This series means plenty. Don't get me wrong. But I do wonder on the first day of March, literally, where those coaches might be in terms of playing conditions. The last thing you want is somebody slipping and falling. I mean, look, I'm going to go worst case scenario for a minute. Can you imagine Ethan Petrie slipping in right field, going after a fly ball, playing hard, right? And then, tweaks or worse, an ankle, a knee, a hip, dives for a ball, or doesn't mean to dive for a ball, is what I'm saying. And, there's a shoulder, an elbow, whatever, right? Like and look, sometimes that happens regardless, but what can you do to mitigate those things? And playing on a field that's been rained on all day is one way to mitigate some of the, or not, so don't.
It's a good way to tear up the rest of the field for further damage.
So I don't know where the line is. Again, John's going to join us in just a little bit, and then he'll have an update. I did reach out a little while ago, didn't hear back, and I imagine I didn't hear back because there wasn't anything to say at this point. But I can assure you they're doing all they can. And what might the contingencies be? So we'll get into those things with Mr. Whittle coming up in just a little bit. 803-404-6100 for you to be a part of the program today. Anything you want to bounce off of us after what you might have heard from Chance Miller. Again, Coach Mike Furry was introduced today as South Carolina's new wide receivers coach. Comes down after 2 years as the head coach at Limestone, D2 school, obviously, up in Gaffney. Before that, 4 years as the wide receiver coach for the Chicago Bears. So back into a position coach, but now in the Southeastern Conference, and someone who still has heavy interest ultimately in being a head coach. It was interesting, too, and I'm sure Mike was fine with this, otherwise you don't sign the contract, but there's basically a doubling of his salary buyout if he leaves in like 120 days.
Wonder why they put that in there.
And but what's interesting as well is that, look, you wanted James Coley, I get it. James Coley's buyout will supply the necessary funding for Mike Furry's salary this coming season. So, you've almost gotten a bonus close to $500,000 in that. So I'm not saying, so it's great, you win. I don't mean it that way. But you got to look, I'm one of those guys. Look for the silver lining, all right? And you do have someone who has been a wide receivers coach for many seasons in the National Football League. That counts for a lot. That's not knocking Justin. That's not knocking James. That's just saying you've now gotten a guy who was a 4-year wide receiver coach after an 8-year NFL career and a career in college that included being an All-American at the FCS level, and a guy who's now been a head coach for 2 years and had success as a head coach in turning around a program that was basically terrible into a program that finished tied for first in its conference and went to the playoffs. So while these things are not ideal, and I don't know who's better than whom, I'm not really here for that right now. Again, I'll say it like I said a bunch. What am I getting ready to say, Elijah? Ask me again around Halloween. I'll let you know how things are going.
Tattoo that on my face.
Well, it's because, you know what? When it comes to football, that's a really good date to kind of figure out what your team is, because going into November, if you don't know what your team is in one form or another, that's probably a bad sign.
Or you're really fun, which means you play with a lot of variance in your game, and every game is unpredictable.
Yeah, well, and then,
but that should be enough sample size.
In that case, I'm kind of here for that too. But by all accounts, and Chance alluded to this. We talked about it yesterday. I know the boys at Gamecock Central had a piece on it too. There's been an outpouring of sort of third-party support for this. There are a lot of people that know this man and that see him getting back into position coaching, but in the Southeastern Conference, that have had glowing things to say about him. Take that as you will.
Dan Orlovsky went to Twitter today to quote tweet the Gamecock football tweet about welcoming, Coach Furry, And he says, great coach, great man, good for at Gamecock football. 2 thumbs up. Dan played with him on the Detroit Lions. You know, I may or may not be efforting Dan to maybe come on and share some insight, but this is a guy that played professional football with Mike and is giving him a really, really good endorsement publicly. So I think that's one little bit of outside, I guess, compliments and reviews on this guy that I find to be pretty valuable. I think Dan Orlovsky's a good football man.
I think Orlovsky is great at what he does.
He's
By the way, taller, you or Dan Orlovsky?
I think Orlovsky's got me beat by 2 inches, maybe,
Yeah.
or 2. But
So he's well over 8 feet tall.
he's like 9 feet tall.
That's crazy.
It's like Zach Edey on stilts.
He's tall. I remember saying, I was like, dang, I didn't know you were that tall.
Well, deceptively, when he
Yeah.
sits down, you're
Yeah.
like, oh, you're with his stature, because he's not.
But what is he like?
overbearing.
He's like 6'6", 6'7"?
Yeah. I want to say he might be. No, he's 6'6". I think he's 6'6".
He's tall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From people I know that know him, say yeah, he's very tall, incredibly quirky, eccentric.
I think listen, whether he's in
fun,
studio.
man. He's fun. I like him.
I think when he's doing a game on a Saturday, I think he's fantastic. And he's so smart. That's a nice compliment to get from a guy like that. But there've been several. I mean, I've seen, in a couple of different places in the last couple of days. So, but we'll get into more of what Coach Furry had to say for you coming up in just a little bit. Also today, and I'll have more of this in the headlines at the top of the 5, but it does look like the helmet communication vote is going to go down and be passed. So you will be seeing helmet communication coming to college football. I don't know if they were also doing the tablet thing today. Not that matters as much. I think it's really the helmet communication is the bigger deal. But that was certainly going to be discussed and expected to be passed today. So we'll keep you updated on some of those things. All right, let me hit a break here so we can have plenty of time with him on if we're going to play, and then once they do play, what the series is going to look like. Our good friend John Whittle of the Big Spur talking Gamecock baseball. You are listening to the Postgame Show. No actual live right here, but I do want to remind you that Elijah and I are soon, a half hour from now, and then about an hour and a half from now, going to give you a chance to win tickets to Carolina Clemson at Segra Park. Is scheduled for tomorrow.
Emphasis on the schedule.
Scheduled for tomorrow at 4, and you've heard the commercials for the pregame party, sponsored by our sister station B106. So that'll be fun. You do need a ticket to get in to be a part of that, but hey, we're going to give you don't have any. That's what I'm saying. We're going to have some Gamecock baseball trivia coming your way in just a little while. And if you get it right, then we're going to give you a pair of tickets to the game at Segra Park.
You can attend the party.
Yeah, the battle at Bull Street. Again, we've got our prepositions right, so stay tuned for that. John Whittle coming up. 18 minutes after 4 o'clock on this Friday. Welcome back into the postgame show. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, our good friend John Whittle joins us now. And during the commercial break, we got the update, but I'm going to let John Whittle tell us what the status of tonight's South Carolina-Clemson baseball game is. Mr. Whittle, happy Friday. How are you?
Happy Friday to you as well. You can go ahead and break that news while I post it on the BigSpur.com right now.
All right. The South Carolina-Clemson baseball opener has been postponed due to inclement weather in Columbia. According to the Gamecock baseball Twitter feed, quote, the two teams will play tomorrow at 4 p.m. at Segra Park. So that is the update. There will not be baseball tonight. John, do we know anything? All I see is a future matchup date at Founders Park is to be determined. I'm going to assume, therefore, that if the 4 o'clock game goes on tomorrow is scheduled, that means no doubleheader at two parks in one town tomorrow, correct?
No, that just wouldn't work for a whole variety of reasons. So I've heard a date floated around for late April, but that it didn't really make sense to me. I'm sure they'll announce it at whenever that becomes official, which may not be today. But the rain's been bad all day, and it doesn't look like it's getting a lot better. So just the way it goes.
Yeah, it is. And while this game is in Columbia tomorrow, Clemson is the home team, so certainly Carolina would like to have an opportunity to play at Founders Park. But, yeah, and I don't know, John, just one more on that, and this is more of an opinion thing, but yours is certainly an expert opinion. You want to play these games because they're Carolina-Clemson, but you mentioned late April, and we know the reason they went to these weekend series is because fans and maybe the teams too sort of fell out of love with the Wednesday bullpen by committee game 4 times a year. So wouldn't we be looking at something like that again? And is it crucial, or do you think maybe these two clubs might look to play again later if they feel it's necessary?
Well, I think they definitely. I mean, they'll definitely want to play at some point. And that's why they wanted to give today every opportunity to try to play out and let them play. I mean, I think you'll probably remember last year the forecast looked just as bad all week and into the morning on Friday up in Clemson as it did today down here in Columbia. And the weather cleared out a little bit and got that game in. Started late, but got it in. And they were hoping for that to happen today. It just didn't. But you want to play the series on the weekend. You want to have the series go off as planned as best you can. Even if it's kind of wet and kind of cold, it's better than trying to squeeze it in on a midweek when one team's probably going to have a 5-game week, and you don't really want to stretch your pitching staff at the end of the year. And it just you want to do everything you can to get it in and in the time frame that or on the day that it's scheduled, and just can't do it. Sometimes you just can't.
Let's get into the matchup, and I imagine, too, now, one more thing, John, and this is sort of an educated opinion for you as well. Do you anticipate that Eli Jones starts tomorrow? Do you just let Eli not start? Is it going to be SQ? Do you have any information on how Coach Kingston and Coach Williams might want to look at the starting rotation with the Friday game not being there?
I mean, I haven't spoken to anybody over there about that specifically. I would be shocked if Eli Jones doesn't start the first game whenever it's played. Whether it's tomorrow at Segra Park and the weather looks great. I mean, I certainly think that is what is going to happen. Now, what happens with Game 2 up in Clemson? That's a better question. What do they go with Dylan Eskew? Do they go with Roman Kimball? That's the one I'd be most curious about. And I guess we'll kind of see how that plays out. But I would think, just knowing a little bit about both teams, I would think they probably go with Dylan Eskew still. He's got great numbers against right-handed hitters. Clemson's lineup is a ton of right-handed hitters, and I feel like that would be the call. Dylan's arm has been stretched out a little bit more. Roman is still on a tighter pitch count, but that's just my hunch on both of those things. That's not necessarily intel.
Yeah, John. Want to ask you about one of my favorite stats this baseball team so far. Maybe not Clemson series related, but they do lead the country in walks drawn, and the Moneyball lover in me loves that. The Joey Votto lover in me loves that this team has drawn more walks than anybody else in college baseball this year. What have you seen from them so far in terms of plate discipline and being able to just generate bodies on base so far this year?
Yeah, I mean that part of it has been really good. I mean that's been key for South Carolina offensively when some of these guys just haven't gotten off to a particularly great start in terms of batting averages and so forth. I look at what South Carolina has done offensively, and they're putting up a whole bunch of runs, which is a great thing. 9.3 runs a game, I think, is what they're averaging, which is a great number. That is ninth in the SEC, so that tells you what kind of runs are being put up in the conference. But I think that's a really good number. But then you start diving a little bit deeper on some things, and I think there's still a lot of meat on the bone for South Carolina when it comes to what they can be offensively. They're 10th in the league in batting average, 10th in slugging percentage. They're bottom third in the league in hits for extra bases. It's just they're 12th in the SEC in hitting with runners in scoring position, 11th in batting average with runners on base. You start looking at some of those things, and that's not good enough for a team that is supposed to be very offensive. And I don't think those numbers are going to stay that way, but they're needing to work these walks and take these hit by pitches and in order to get some opportunities. So Cole Messina is not going to hit 212 all year. Parker Nolan's not going to hit 212 all year. Will Tippett and Blake Jackson, those were two of your best players coming into the season from an offensive standpoint. I don't think that's going to continue to happen. But so they've needed all of these walks to be able to help generate some of these run-scoring opportunities because they haven't hit quite as well as what I think most of us anticipated.
Talking to John Whittle of the Big Spur, talking Gamecocks and Clemson baseball. Again, if you've just tuned in during the interview, Carolina-Clemson tonight has been postponed. A date hopefully will be assigned to this game a little bit later in the season. We don't know that as of yet. Tomorrow's 4 p.m. game at Segra Park is scheduled to go off, as is Sunday's game at Doug Kingsmore up in Clemson on Sunday. John, give us maybe your most pleasant surprise so far in the early going, especially perhaps from Gamecock newcomers. A lot of turnover this year. Who's someone, I don't want to say they're maybe performing better than you thought, but just that has blended themselves nicely into the mix?
Well, in terms of newcomers, the guy who probably jumps out to me right now the most is Ty Good, and Eddie Copper. Those are the two that come to mind immediately. And both of those guys are from a pitching standpoint. Just the most pleasant surprise overall, I think, has got to be Dylan Brewer with what he's done so far. But I really liked Eddie Copper coming in as a freshman. Ty Good obviously had some accolades coming in terms of Conference Pitcher of the Year last year for his lead down at College of Charleston. He also just didn't pitch particularly well in the build-up to the season, or at least in the fall, and he pitched better, I guess, in a couple of weeks in the build-up to the preseason, in the preseason. So both of those guys coming on really well have been huge. Dylan Brewer, in terms of just being a general surprise and total, is certainly been the biggest for South Carolina. I think he's hitting .519 on base percentage at .622. Hasn't struck out yet in 27 at bats. I mean, come on, that's not real, right? No strikeouts so far. 8 walks, 1 hit batter. He's got double and a triple too, so he's not just singling guys everywhere. But he's done a great job overall, and he's the guy who's been the most pleasant surprise for me. If you look at South Carolina's team as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, he and Petrie both have OPSs over 1250.
It's cartoonish.
That's kind of frightening, John.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible, what they've done so far. And, Petrie's had a couple games where he hasn't been all that great and looked kind of bad up there in the box. But, man, there have been days where he's looked really good, too, and the numbers bear that out.
Good stuff. You'll be busy tomorrow. Basketball, then baseball over at Segra. Appreciate you as always. We'll check in again real soon, man.
Yeah, and those are the best kind of days, right? Those fun, busy ones with a lot of great things going on.
And by the way, Chance was just here, and I did appreciate that you had let him know before I did that you were a little disappointed that it was not Arsenal that was playing at Williams-Brice this summer. But maybe we'll get the Gunners here in town one day soon. We'll work on that.
Heck, with everything that with how well this thing has gone this time with Liverpool and Manchester United, you never know. It seems like they may want to come back around these parts and do something like this again.
We'll see. John M. Whittle on Twitter, bigspur.com. Thank you, sir. Appreciate you. We'll let you hear from South Carolina wide receivers coach Mike Furry coming up.
From the WIS Traffic Center, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that might be causing delays on the roadways this afternoon. Starting Lexington County, an accident's recently been reported at Corley Mill Road near River Chase Way. That's causing some traffic backup over in Lexington County. Here in Northeast Columbia, an accident on I-20 westbound over at Spears Creek Road near exit 82 is causing some traffic backup over on 20. And then on 26 westbound at St. Andrews Road near exit 106, an accident has been reported there, as well as another one on 26 that just now was reported westbound at Columbia Avenue near exit 91.
We were just talking Carolina Clemson baseball with our good friend John Whittle. Welcome back in. Jay and Elijah with you. Let me update you, and we'll be doing this a lot. Tonight's game has been postponed. There will not be a game tonight, and there will not be any doubleheader this weekend to make it up. There is, according to Carolina baseball, a discussion of when to play it. In fact, the quote from Carolina says a future matchup date at Founders Park is to be determined. So hold on to that ticket. Don't throw it away. Don't use it as a bookmark and forget where you put it. If you have a hard ticket, that is. Some of you now have the e-ticket. Maybe most of you do these days. I don't know how that works anymore, but in terms of the percentage of paper ticket versus e-ticket.
I'd say most are e-tickets.
Yeah, most. I know our good friend David Dare would prefer the paper ticket.
The colored paper ticket. Yes, no black and white tickets.
That's right.
Printed out, full color.
And a big one, too. Big ticket.
About like those big novelty checks that you can win. Yeah.
David would be like, I can get in on this.
Admit one.
So there will hopefully, at some point this baseball season, be a makeup game. John said he had heard maybe very initial preliminary fine pencil discussion of a date later in April. Look, you got to find a way for these two teams to come together, for Clemson to be able to travel. And a lot of teams don't always want to play two midweek games, especially if there's all of a sudden a game like this that's in the midweek where,
it's kind of a big one.
Yeah, it ramps up a little bit in terms of the intensity and the usage of certain arms and stuff, and things like that. And both these teams play in, not just good, but excellent baseball conferences. So,
number one team in the country.
Look at the top 25, man. It's like, I think it's about 2/3 either SEC. It's like 2/3 SEC, ACC. It's crazy. Might be more than that. I'm not
gauntlets.
Sure. It might. Yeah, it's there's a lot
coming into this week. What was 36%? Did the math, which is always dangerous, but 36% of the top 25 came from either North or South Carolina.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's nuts.
So anyway, these two teams are very good. Tomorrow's game at Segra is still on for 4 p.m. and then Sunday at Doug Kingsmore, but no game tonight. Sorry.
Unfortunately.
But if you've, if you live here in the greater Columbia area, that is.
You know why.
You know why. Exactly.
This shouldn't be a shock.
Yeah. As Ollie would say, it's raining. And it's been raining since about 8 o'clock.
Walked out my house this morning, looked at my phone, saw the forecast, and you know what my first thought was? They ain't playing this game.
Yeah. Kind of like a groundhog. You just turn back around like,
nope.
Still winter.
No shadow. Sorry.
Coach Shane Beamer introduced new wide receivers coach Mike Furr. Do we have those sound comments ready to go, Mr. Campbell? Let me start, if you will, please, with number 38 on Tyler's list. This is Shane once again reiterating why he and Dowell Loggins felt like there was a need to change wide receivers coaches to begin with.
Just looking at our wide receiver group as a whole, wanted to get someone in here that can develop our guys a little bit better than what we have. And the fact of the matter is, if you look at who we were playing receiver with last season, it's guys that we inherited, that were here when I got here as the head coach for the most part, or transfers that we had brought in. Had been a little disappointed, and again, it starts with me as the head coach. Had been a little disappointed with the freshmen that we've brought into a program that we recruited and their development. You know, obviously Nick Harbor played a lot for us last season, but beyond Nick, there really hasn't been one in the last 3 seasons, and that can't continue.
So there you go. That's again, the reasoning by shifting from Justin Stepp. You wanted James Coley to do it. Now James is off to Georgia, so you've hired Mike Furry. The next cut on the list, please, Elijah. Coach Furry spent 4 years as the wide receivers coach of the Chicago Bears. You don't spend 4 years as a position coach in the NFL without knowing what you're doing. The last 2 years, as he wanted to transition into head coaching, he did so at Limestone up in Gaffney, where he took a team that was not good and turned them into a playoff team at the D2 level. Here he is, about a minute-long cut on going back to wide receivers after what he's learned as a head coach.
So
I'm sorry, 39. My bad.
Okay.
Yeah, 39.
Yeah, you know, it becomes a lot easier, right? In regards to now, my focal point is to make sure that my room is the standard that we set. I do think when you're an assistant coach, just coming from that chair before, I do think that is a major response. That's the number one responsibility of any assistant coach, is to make sure that your room is significant enough to be a highly competitive room, to have a lot of talent in that room. And listen, I mean, we're all put on this earth to do something, and it's not to just, I tell our guys all the time, it's not to just be average, right? I mean, we're put on this world to go do something, if you believe in that, and that's to be great. And I do believe that the Biletnikoffs and the Heisman Trophy winners and all those kind of things and the candidates should come out of that room, right? That should be your standard. But it will make it a lot easier just focusing on 13, 14 guys instead of the joy that I've had over the last 2 years of 205 guys. So it'll be it'll shorten down that time just a little bit.
So let's get one more from Coach Furry here. We'll squeeze this one in before we let you try to win some baseball tickets for tomorrow's game. Cut 40, Elijah. A lot of people say, Mike Furry, you're a high energy guy. His response.
Well, I think it's there's 3 things that I've built myself, and I think it's what's called a method, and I've carried this with me my whole entire life. And the first thing of that method, to me, if you can create the method, that creates success, right? And I think the first thing that it's guaranteed is effort. I think when you go out there and you watch us run around, it's not going to be shy of effort. It's not going to be shy of exhausting ourselves for a better purpose, and that's our team. And we'll practice like that. We'll play like that. We'll run routes like that. There will always be a purpose, but it's going to be a maximum effort that's going to be behind that. And that's in everything that we do. Again, going back to the question about development, you know, some of the greatest ones I've ever been around, they give max effort in walkthroughs. Right now, I know the tone of things, and I know how you slow stuff down, and I know how to go crazy on things. But when you have maximum effort, when you give effort, that means it's important. Right? That you're telling somebody it's important to you. And so you're trying to make sure that you can maximize that. And so I'll talk to our guys all the time about giving 110%, right? More than the normal. Become rare, right? And then goal-oriented, okay? And I call that level up. We'll talk about leveling up every day. I talk to our guys about just making sure that we have goals that we want to reach. Goals for now, goals for the team, individual goals, and how do we get there? And to me, when you become goal-oriented, well, then that's going to make sure you're locked in on your goal, which to me now becomes your discipline. Your discipline in your route running, your discipline in your studies, your discipline in your academics, your discipline anytime that, whatever it is, anytime that we take the field. And again, I think through all those things, what evolves then is a great teammate. And I think when you become a great teammate, then you become a great group. And when you become a great group, now you become pretty lethal. And I think all those things hit really well. They're very self-explanatory. They're easy to manage every single day, but I just don't think you live any different. And I think if you do live any different, then I think you're wasting what the good Lord's blessed you with. And if you're going to waste that, then I'm going to get after you. And like Coach Beamer said, just like coaching, if that's not for you and this isn't for you, and if this is not how you want to live and this is not how you want to pursue the best that you can become for your team, well, this might not be the best place, right? But that's how you got to find out. Rather than putting hope out on the field, you're going to put a product. And that product's going to be daggone stinking good, and they're going to freaking run around like a bunch of banshees and play ball.
Mike Furry, Carolina's new wide receivers coach. I like it. Good
That's
stuff.
a football coach.
Yeah, good stuff. In the meantime, let's do it, Elijah.
It's time to give away a pair of tickets to the Battle of Bull Street for Saturday. Call now at 803-404-6100 and test your Carolina baseball knowledge on the Postgame Show.
Line them up. We'll throw some trivia your way when we come back right here on 107.5 The Game. All right, welcome back into the post-game show on this Friday. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell with you. Coming up next hour, headlines of the day, an updated EBPI projection of South Carolina versus Florida in men's basketball, plus some comments from Coach Paris.
It's a tight one.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of working in that machine today.
We'll have
I'm afraid it's broken.
Have some sound from Coach Dawn after last night's win in Arkansas as well, plus a drive around the SEC. And about an hour from now, another chance to win tickets. But right now, we've got Nick, we've got Jeff, and we've got Adam ready to have a little trivia thrown their way for a chance to win a pair of tickets for tomorrow afternoon's game. By the way, tonight's game, once again, if you've just tuned in, haven't heard yet, tonight's game is postponed. Okay? They will attempt to make it up here in Columbia later in the season, so postponed. All right? Not just canceled outright, just making sure we get the jargon down.
There is a difference.
That's right. So it's been postponed. They will play tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and that's what we're giving away tickets for. Now, Nick got in first. Jeff got in second. Adam got in third. I have a 3-answer multiple-choice question. I will ask it. Nick will get to go first. If Nick gets it right, he wins the tickets. If Nick gets it wrong, then we go to Jeff, and so on. And that's how it works. So, Nick, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good, thank you.
You bet. All right, here we go. Now, all of you listen, all right? All of you listen, because this could matter for you. Nick, here we go. How many times did Coach Ray Tanner lead the Gamecocks to the College World Series? All right, how many times did Coach Ray Tanner lead the Gamecocks to the College World Series? 4, 5, or 6?
Well, can I think about this? Let me put the years together in my mind.
You better go quick.
Yes, sir. I'm going to say 6.
6 is correct. Nice going. Way to go, Nick.
Sure.
You got it right. Yes, 02, 03, 04, 10, 11, 12. 4 times playing for the national championship. 2 times the Gamecocks brought home the trophy. So congratulations,
It was a guess.
Nick.
I got to. It was a guess. I got to admit.
Well, that's good. That's good.
You're a good guesser.
Yeah, I guess we don't have an official time limit, but I didn't want to, I couldn't let Nick wait too long.
Whenever you hear me start to do the Jeopardy jingle,
Yeah.
that's when you know we are
You're
within
running
3
out
seconds.
of time. Or like the Oscars when they pull you off. So, Nick, congratulations. Jeff, Adam, thank you, boys. You didn't quite get there, but Jeff and Adam are still eligible to call in. Again, we'll do one more trivia question for you in about an hour. So, Nick, congrats, buddy. Good stuff. And Elijah has all your intel.
Indeed.
All right, so you're good to go. And Nick, those tickets will be sent to you shortly. All right.
Thank you both.
Sure.
I appreciate it.
All right, buddy. Good stuff. Thank you for listening to us. And again, Jeff, Adam, I feel bad for Jeff and Adam.
They were so close.
Yeah.
Nick guessed. He said he guessed, and you have a 33.3% repeating chance of just guessing and getting it correctly, meaning, for the other 2, there was a 66% chance it gets down to you.
We
didn't work that way.
We did 2 questions yesterday, and the first guy, before I really even had the answers out of my mouth, dude knew the answer. The first question was which school did Carolina not play for a national championship? And it was UCLA, Arizona State, Oklahoma State. And before I could even get the word state out for after Oklahoma State.
He knew.
Yeah, I was a fan. But then the next one, we got down to the third guy. And that's why I said be listening, because, and I repeated the question with answers each time, because that's the way we're supposed to do this to make it all official and whatnot.
It is a good exercise in listening.
Yeah. So, and that's what we do in radio. And even if you're watching on YouTube right now, and I'm pointing at the camera, you still got to listen. So a little less than an hour now, officially, we will be throwing out one more trivia question for a chance to win a pair of tickets to tomorrow's sold-out game at Segra Park.
That's right. That's how rare these are. This is your best chance.
Pre-game party with our sister station, B106.
And you will not be handing out party favors at the
No.
party. Okay. The rumors were incorrect.
Yeah. Sorry.
Dang.
You think that's going to be one of those disappointments? Here's what I want you all to do.
I want you to, tomorrow as Mason is out there, the Firefly mascot, I want you to ask if I'm inside the suit.
Or just call him Jay and assume that you're in the suit.
And full disclosure, before anybody does anything that makes anybody feel bad, I am not going to be in the suit.
That would be a good Wheel of Punishment thing. You have to be in the Firefly suit.
You know what? One day, I'm not, you know what? One day I might actually, that might be interesting. Like, what is the, you know, there's a good, what's the day in the life of a minor league baseball mascot? You know, I don't want
and
some
be mic'd up.
Get some kid to come kick me because they're not supposed to talk. And, man, that's what I do for a living. Hour 3 coming up.
Be like a mime. From the WIS Traffic Studios, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways this Friday afternoon. We'll start in Lexington County. An accident on Corley Mill Road near River Chase Way has been causing some traffic backup here for the last 30 minutes or so. Moving to Northeast Columbia, an accident on I-20 westbound over at Spears Creek Church Road over near exit 82 is causing some traffic backup over there on 20 West. In Columbia, I-26 westbound over at St. Andrews Road exit 106 is causing some traffic backup, as well as another one on 26 westbound. This one is at Columbia Avenue near exit 91. So 2 accidents on 26 westbound, one at St. Andrews Road exit 106, and one on the Columbia Avenue exit 91 are all causing some slight delay.
Welcome back in. Final hour of the post-game show coming at you from the Herndon Chevy Studios. Jay Phillips, Elijah Campbell, drive around the SEC. Elijah's EBPI projection for Carolina, Florida. Got a lot to do. And at the end of the hour, one more chance for you to win tickets to Carolina Clemson tomorrow. On that note, as we start our integrated media headlines of the day, tonight's game at Founders Park has been postponed because of the rain in Columbia. It's been raining seriously since about 8 o'clock. Really hasn't stopped. At times it's been heavier than others, but no real window right now because it's still raining. It's raining, as Ollie would say. So can't play tonight. Scheduled to be fine for tomorrow at 4, we hope. Yeah, that's the schedule. And for Sunday afternoon at Doug Kingsmore Stadium, that's a 2 o'clock start in Clemson. But they're still going to play, and it's still a top 20 matchup. Coach Mark Kingston was previewing the series before it all went to heck today. And first off, he talks about how special this Carolina-Clemson rivalry is.
Yeah, I think I love it like most people in the state love it, and I think a lot of people nationally love it. You're going to see two highly rated teams with storied traditions. You're going to see some of the best players in the country compete in 3 venues in 3 cities. I guess 2 cities when you factor in where the when the neutral game is here. But it's just everything you want. It's high competition. It's big fan bases. It's a rivalry. It's everything you're looking for. So I think when it was designed years ago, they got it right.
I would agree with that last part. Now, again, we may have a Wednesday game or a Tuesday game later in the year. We don't know. Let me remind you again, Carolina has announced that a makeup date is in the works. In fact, the official statement from Carolina is just that. Let me get back to it now. I've lost it. Hang on. Let me go back to my interwebs, and I'll get it for you. The official word from Carolina, a future matchup date at Founders Park is to be determined. So we don't yet know if or when they'll try to make up tonight's game. They want to. They want to. But as you guys can imagine, with 2 schools playing in incredibly competitive conferences like the ACC and the SEC, open dates are at a premium to begin with, rest days, you got school. There's a lot of factors that go into something like this, but they clearly want to play it. So we'll see how that goes down. But tomorrow, still good, and Sunday as well. One more from Coach Kingston. Here he is on scouting the number 10 Clemson Tigers.
They have some returning players that are very good as well. It's not a completely new team, but there's some returning players that are really, really good. You've got to look at video, and so the video we've been able to find of their game so far, we've done the best we could in trying to make sure we're prepared. Our assistants are working very hard, preparing, looking at scouting reports, everything you need to do to be prepared. But when there's turnover in a roster, regardless of who you're playing, it just means you have to invest more time on the front end.
Good stuff from Coach Kingston. Elijah's taken a couple of calls asking, and we did ask John Whittle about this, why can't they play a doubleheader tomorrow? I think logistically, even though you could play in Columbia, I don't think – I would imagine – I don't know yet, okay? I don't know. I've been on the air since this was announced and canceled, so I don't have insight yet as to what the discussions were like between Coach Kingston and Coach Bakich on how things were going to go down. It may be that they don't want to play a doubleheader tomorrow. It could be as simple as that, whether it was at one park or 2. And I realize that the two ballparks are only about 3 or 4 miles away from each other, if that. But getting 2 ballparks ready, do you start at noon? Can you start at noon? Is this field going to be good? It's going to rain for a while. Again, I'm throwing my things out, y'all. I don't know. So I'm giving you my suppositions as to potentially why there's no doubleheader tomorrow, because I thought about that as a contingency, and I asked John about it, and he said logistically it was just going to be too much. So, if you started at noon, you aren't going to play at Segra at 4. And it may well be that Segra, as a neutral site, already has, an independent staff, if you will, in place, ready to run that game tomorrow, to be ready to get the field prepped, to be there. I mean, a sold-out game takes a lot of doing, even if the place only holds about 10,000. They're ready to do that at 4 o'clock tomorrow. And it could be as simple as, you just don't up and move it to 7. Now, if it were at Carolina or at Clemson, could you do that? Probably a little easier.
Yeah, we had somebody calling too. Also, kind of throw out there maybe they didn't want to compete with with the basketball game. There's a big basketball game at noon at CLA.
Well, I think that's why they moved.
I don't think you want to pull people from that arena.
That's accurate. I think that's very fair.
Don't know how big that crossover would be. People that want to go to both, but I completely understand as to why you wouldn't want to have a game during the time slot where you're on national TV playing one of the biggest games of the year in men's hoops.
I would seriously believe that the crossover amount would be a few thousand. I mean, Founders Park holds 8,000 people. I would think 2,000 or 3,000 of them might be at the basketball game, maybe more. I don't know, because you'll have Clemson fans that are going to be there. There's a lot of things. That's certainly a factor. If I'm not mistaken, I think that's why the Davidson baseball game next week, as a quick aside, has been moved to, or is a 3:00 game because Carolina, Tennessee is that night. Again, you don't want to compete with yourself. So that's certainly, I didn't even think about that. That's certainly a factor. Is it the factor? I don't know, but it's a factor. But again, even if it weren't, playing, let's just assume you could start at 12. You play maybe a 7-inning game. You've run into, close to 3:00. And then you get everybody on the bus and have those boys ready. Like, get on the bus, get over there, change your uniform, have a peanut butter and jelly or whatever. And,
that could get a little hectic.
Yeah, I don't think they want that. And I realize it's not that far and probably not overly difficult in theory. Mm-hmm. But in practice, it's different. So that's what they're going to do. And I imagine a few things got rolled around. Again, I don't know yet, so I want to be careful that y'all are listening to me going, well, Jay said it was so-and-so. Jay doesn't know.
Jay's speculating.
But you're asking what so I'm giving you my hopefully somewhat educated opinion based on just how things go. It doesn't matter, though. They're not going to play a doubleheader. They will play one game tomorrow at Segra, hopefully at 4:00, and then they will play Sunday in Clemson. That's the best I can tell you. With the genuine hope that they will play the Columbia game, the Founders Park game, at a later date. So we will certainly, I assure you, let you know as soon as we get any intel on that one. In the meantime, alluding to the Carolina-Florida men's basketball game tomorrow, it tips at noon. Florida comes in red hot, having won 4 of 5. Carolina has won 3 of its last 5, including 2 in a row. And this is a game that if Florida wins, they will be tied with South Carolina in terms of conference record, but then own the head-to-head. So that's why it was so crucial for the Gamecocks to get that win and at least provide a little bit of cushion. If the Gamecocks win, then bang, you open a 2-game lead on Florida at that point. Really a 3-game lead if you want to look at it that way. And you almost, not quite, but you almost certainly assure yourself of starting your conference tournament on Friday in 2 weeks' time up in Nashville, Tennessee. But here's Coach Lamont Paris on scouting the Florida Gators.
They're playing well together, and they got some guys, honestly, to me, in my own personal estimation, they look really engaged in what they're doing, which wasn't necessarily the case early on in the year with a couple of those guys. And so, it should be a really good game, fun game, high-level game, and it represents what it represents. It's for a lot. We're 1 game up on them in the league, and so you're talking about conference standings, seeding for the conference tournament, ramifications for the NCAA tournament, everything is there, all in 1 game. So it should be great. If you don't have your tickets, go get them now.
Not many left. Let's put it that way. Speaking of not many left, there are none left for Sunday's game for the women's team against Tennessee. That's, I believe, a noon tip at CLA, the final regular season game of the year, senior day for South Carolina basketball. We'll have more from Coach Dawn after last night's win and looking ahead to what her team is doing coming up for you in the drive around the SEC. Continuing with our integrated media headlines of the day, a couple of things for you around college football. First off, the NCAA Football Rules Committee today has created a proposal that will be voted on in just a few weeks' time. That would allow FBS teams to use helmet technology between a coach and just 1 player on the field. Much like the NFL, communication between the two would be cut off with 15 seconds left on the play clock, or when the ball is snapped, whichever comes first. So, in other words, if you're a high-tempo team and you like to get moving, and might this be something where more coaches are like, well, if I can do it right up until the ball snapped, but you got to move pretty quick to do that because a 40-second clock starts almost immediately. So, yeah. But
More
anyway,
incentive for those up-tempo teams to keep playing up-tempo.
So that again, that was not approved today, but the rules committee then sends that on to the larger vote. Also today, that same committee proposed the creation of a 2-minute warning for college football. It would be just like the NFL at the end of the second and the end of the fourth quarter. They say it would be meant to emphasize the flow of the game, preventing back-to-back media timeouts, things like that. We know what the 2-minute warning is. I don't think it needs a whole lot of explanation. I'm here for the 2-minute warning. I'm here for the helmet comms. Nothing in here right now was discussed about the tablets that could be used. Again, why college doesn't do – again, it's because some schools say they can't afford it. Again, you got high schools that are doing it.
Most high schools, I would
if
say,
high schools can,
have at least a TV under a tent that they go back and look at the huddle tape.
Yeah, let's do that too. But that was not part of today's committee meeting. These proposals, again, must be approved by the Playing Rules Oversight Panel. That will happen officially in April. And this article by The Athletics, Chris Vanini, says that both of these are expected to pass. So there's that for you. And finally, the CEO of Fanatics says his team is being unfairly blamed for Major League Baseball's uniforms. If you haven't yet seen or heard, baseball asked for new uniform design with thinner material, more breathable material. Unfortunately, as you know, most teams wear white at home, and the white pants are
revealing.
They're see-through. You can see shirts tucked in. You can see other bits of apparel.
You can tell if somebody's wearing a cup or not. We'll say that.
Yep.
It's NC-17.
He was speaking at an analytics conference today, was Michael Rubin, the Fanatics founder. Quote, "This is a little bit of a difficult position. We're purely doing exactly as we've been told, and we've been told we're doing everything exactly right, and we're getting the bleep kicked out of us. So that's not fun." He goes on to say that Major League Baseball and Nike sent the specifications to Fanatics. They bought the apparel company, Fanatics did, that makes these uniforms. He says that Nike did it for all the right reasons. They hand us the specs, he says, make this. We've made everything exactly to the spec. Nike and baseball say, yes, you've done everything we've asked you to do, except perhaps please the players.
Please the players, or maybe pass FCC regulation. I don't know. Some of these are free. If you haven't seen the pictures on the interwebs, they're there, and it's about the hardest I've laughed in a long time.
Yeah, there's a few that have been.
There's a comedic element to this that Major League Baseball probably doesn't find funny, but is in reality.
Tony Clark is the head of the Players Union. He said, quote, "The commentary that's being offered suggests that the powers that be are paying attention to the concerns that are there and engaging how best to address them moving forward," meaning they are going back into the basement somewhere or the attic or the old storage closet at whatever ballpark and saying, hey, the old pants, we still got any?
They're going to start reusing them. They're not going to get new uniforms every game. There's going to be some guys taking the field this year with some dirt stains on the jersey.
That's how I translate Tony's latest statement on there. They're doing it. They're seeing what they can do about it. Yeah.
See-through baseball pants, not a great idea in theory nor in practice.
Yeah, I don't know who the Chris Matlock equivalent is at Major League Baseball teams all around the country, but Matlock, we need our old pants back. I can see Matlock. Y'all told me to sell them. That's our integrated media headlines of the day. 803-948-8327. Call them up for all your home theater needs. More from Lamont Paris and the EBPI coming up. Once again, let me remind you that we are going to give you a chance to win tickets to tomorrow afternoon's Carolina-Clemson baseball game at Segra Park. That's coming your way with some Gamecock baseball trivia in about a half hour's time. And it does give me an opportunity right now to remind you that tonight's game has been postponed. We're very sorry about that. We didn't want it to rain. We wanted to bring you the game here on the flagship of the Gamecock Radio Network. But we will be unable to do so. They hope to make the game back up later in the season. That is still to be determined by Coach Kingston and Coach Bakich. But we're all hoping for it at some point in time. But, again, if you don't have tickets for tomorrow's sold-out game at the home of the Fireflies, don't fret, because Elijah and I will be giving you a chance to win a pair of tickets coming up a little bit later on. We'll let you know when to call. Meanwhile, we'll preview Carolina-Florida basketball when the postgame show continues. Welcome back in. Friday afternoon, March the 1st. Happy March, everybody, after a leap day. And again, those of you who were fortunate enough to have a baby born yesterday, congratulations, first and foremost. And in a year from now, please call and let Elijah and me know when you will celebrate their birthday 3 out of every 4 years.
We're taking an unofficial poll.
Yep. But congratulations if you had a baby yesterday, because somebody did. A lot of people did.
Statistically speaking, lots of people do.
Yeah. I mean, people are born every day.
That's right.
So
that's a fact.
So there's that. Anyway, no, but seriously, let us know. We need this is the kind of information that we're here to gather. Because Elijah would do it on March 1, I would do it on February 28th. It's not like a battle. We're not here to really say who's right or wrong. Well, Elijah knows that he's right.
Yeah. I feel pretty confident about that.
Yeah.
The argument against is fine, but
I just
not
said,
convincing enough.
I mean, you're a February birthday, so you should do it in February is my point.
And that's fair.
And it's the last day of February.
But why not make March?
But I feel like March 1st is probably more apropos because it would be, I mean, you were born after February 28th.
Yeah. So it might feel premature to celebrate it February 28th.
But you weren't born in March. It's a conundrum.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Which is why we need further input. I think we have reached a spot here where we're both making pretty good arguments. We need validation in our study.
We're both here to make good points, even if we don't always see eye to eye on these kinds of things. Carolina, Florida tomorrow at noon. Huge opportunity for both of these teams. Are we at a point where this would be quad one for both, Elijah? Where's Florida in the net today?
Florida is right outside the top 30, and they were as of earlier in the week. There were games last night that might impact that. So as of today, Florida is 33. Therefore, it is a quad 2 game.
Quad 2 for Carolina, quad 1 for Florida. So still, I'm less concerned about that. And just, you're more concerned about winning the games. Should South Carolina win, they would basically open up officially a 2-game lead on Florida, but it would be a 3-game lead on Florida because you'd have the head-to-head. There's only one matchup this year between these two schools. If Florida wins, then the two teams are tied at in the conference. They'd both be 11-5. Florida, though, would basically have the 1-game edge with the head-to-head tiebreaker. So, and it would not derail Carolina's opportunity to be one of the top 4 teams in the conference, but it would certainly bunch you up. There's really 4 schools right now vying for those 2 spots. If you let's just, for the sake of the discussion, assume that Bama and Tennessee, who see each other tomorrow, right?
They do.
We'll talk about that in the drive around next segment. But assuming those 2 advance as the top 2 teams in the league, then Carolina, Florida, Auburn, and Kentucky are trying to fit into those last 2 spots.
And Kentucky still has a date at Tennessee to play as well. In order for Kentucky to leapfrog you, since you have the tiebreaker, you need to lose twice. But also South Carolina's got Tennessee and Mississippi State. Mississippi State's on the road. Not a lot of teams outside of Kentucky really went at the hump this year. So while this is going to be a really tough game tomorrow, this might be the easiest one you have on your schedule for the last 3.
Lamont Paris speaking on Carolina calls last night. A little bit, cut number 7 here. You need to play with an edge. And here's Lamont. There's a little waxing philosophically in here as well, but keeping that chip on your shoulder.
Yeah, it's a great question. And to some degree, Pat, I grew up a Lakers fan, and they said Pat Riley was a master motivator. That was the thing. He'd stick his head in a bucket of water if he needed to, whatever it was. I don't do that. But there are different ways to motivate guys, and certainly for us, having an older team, an experienced team that we believed in and we knew what we were about, the chip on the shoulder thing has played well for us. It has throughout the most of the season, all up until even when we thought it was rankings, and then it was validating that. So you've got to play with a chip on the shoulder to validate that. Everybody thought when you were 15th, you were going to lose a couple of games and be out of there. So at this point in the season, it's a little harder to play the chip on the shoulder role, but you're so deep into the season, your motivation now stems from things that in November were a pipe dream. You talk about in November, hey, let's win the league in November. Well, that's a long ways away for a team that's picked last and you haven't played one game, even through the beginning of the conference, right? At this point, chip on the shoulder is harder to muster up and harder to generate, but win the league, that's a real thing. NCAA tournament, that's a real thing. There's so many more things that will motivate them way more. Like, there aren't going to be any off days when you're thinking about 3 games left and a game out of first place in the conference. There's no taking anything for granted. There's no not trying as hard. There's no lack of concentrate. None of that, right? And those are the things, honestly, when you talk about chip on the shoulder, that fire you you up. You don't have a chip on your shoulder and make more shots because you had a chip on your shoulder, right? You do things that you don't want to do. You defend better. You take charges better. You dive on loose balls. You block out better because you got a chip on your shoulder, and those are the things that kind of help you get it done. And so I think at this point, we're more focused on, the guys are more focused on what's out there for this team. We've accomplished a lot. Every time they achieve something, it seems like that hasn't been done since 1990 this, or this hasn't been done since. There are a lot of things that they've already done, but trust me when I tell you they are focused on something, on continuing to achieve, and it's a really fun thing to be a part of.
A big opportunity tomorrow. It's an exciting time. You know, obviously, when you're winning, it's great, right? That's what sports is all about. The more you win, the more fun you're going to have. But Florida comes in playing really good basketball, and Carolina has a lot to prove tomorrow. On that note, here's Coach Paris. You know, Florida likes to get up and down the floor. How does Carolina negate that?
Maybe. I think you have to. I think a couple things you have to do against them. They have tremendous length. They block shots. They offensive rebound because of that, too. I think those are two scenarios that you have to handle. We get back on defense, and we play really hard. So teams don't typically shoot a good, high-quality shot within the first 7 seconds against us. Not normally. So, you know, pace it is what it is. I think it's just doing a good job on the boards, not turning the ball over. That keeps them out of transition if you don't turn the ball over and get a pretty good shot. And then, you know, playing halfway decent. You got to make a shot or two. You got to guard the ball relatively effectively. You got to run them off the three-point line. They got a variety of guys that can do that. Their guard trios are good as well. And they got a good team. I think you just got to stick to your principles for the most part and just and play a pretty good game.
Tomorrow at noon, 11:30 airtime with Derek Scott and Judge Casey Manning on the call. On that note, Elijah has been running everything through the EBPI machine today to get us ready for this one. But you've got some stats on Florida's abilities.
Especially with that tempo. He mentioned how fast they can get up and down the floor. South Carolina is this season 10-0 in games and where there are 63 or fewer possessions played.
Okay.
10-0.
10-0.
So if you're doing your math correctly, they're 13-5 in games in which there are more than 63 possessions played.
Which is still pretty good.
Yeah. Would you like to guess how many games Florida has played this year in which they have had 63 or fewer possessions?
I'm going to go 0.
0. They have not played a single game this year. The closest they got was Missouri in the last game. I did. The closest they had was 64 against Missouri.
Wow.
They've only played 6 games this year with fewer than 70 possessions. They are really good at making you play how they want to play.
Yeah.
He mentioned their size. Over 50% of Florida's possessions in the last 5 games have included at least 2 players on the floor that are 6'11 or taller. They have 3 forwards that they play in interchangeably, and in over half the possessions they played in the last 5 games, they've included both those dudes on the floor at the same time. So you're not going to have a size advantage, and those guys aren't afraid to play on the perimeter either. It's going to be really tough, and because of how they've played a lot better defensively in the last few weeks, the way they're able to dictate tempo, the way there's really not much of a difference, statistically speaking, in how South Carolina plays at home versus on the road. Technically, South Carolina plays better on the road than they do at home. So I'm really not taking home court advantage into account at all because it's not that great on paper. Not saying anything against the crowd.
Right.
I'm just saying, statistically speaking, there is no difference in how they play. I still have Florida at about a 52% chance of winning this game.
Okay. So yesterday, the EBPI was at 51%. Today, 52% for Florida.
I have now bumped it up just 1, but this is still really close because Colin Murray-Boyles can be the ultimate X factor.
Right.
Him and Talon Cooper are going to be the 2 most important players because of pace, and CMB because of size on the perimeter. I think he can drive on their bigs if they're able to afford him that opportunity.
We'll hear from Coach Dawn, get you the rest of the weekend action across the board in the conference as the drive around the SEC comes at you. You're listening to the Postgame Show. Love telling you about my friends at Cato's Power Equipment. Now, here's the thing. I can't really do a lot of yard work right now because it's raining. Yeah, that's the only bummer. But all of March, homeowner mowers are on sale at Cato's, up to $500 off. They can even finance it for you for up to 60 months. Man, talk about budget-friendly and yard-friendly all at once. Man, Ben and the crew helping you out. The last week of March into the first week of April, so be planning for this, is their huge Mow the Distance sale. You heard me right. 15% off steel products, 10% off all parts, 20% off of the MSRP on most commercial mowers. They have 3 or 4 closeout models left, price around $3,000 below normal sale price. So again, for those of you who are especially professionals at this, see Cato's real soon and check those kind of things out. 4012 West Beltline Boulevard, always online at catospowerequipment.com. Whether you cut your own yard or do it for a living, see Cato's Power Equipment.
From the WIS Traffic Studio, I'm Elijah Campbell with a few accidents to report to you that might be causing some delays on the roadways here this afternoon. We'll go ahead and start with just 2, thankfully. We'll start one in Columbia, an accident on I-20 eastbound over at the Broad River Road exit 65. That's causing some slight traffic backup. That one's recently been reported, so things are moving pretty slowly through there. And lastly, a disabled vehicle is causing traffic to move slower in the Lexington County area over on I-26 westbound near the I-126 exit 108A.
And we'll start you off with a little Carolina women's basketball. Big win last night for Dawn Staley's team. A lot of big wins these days, of course. 98-61 over Arkansas, a team that shoots a lot of three-pointers. South Carolina just didn't really ever let them get good. They shot a lot of them. I'll tell you that much.
Hey, I respect that.
Yeah,
you have nothing to lose.
They kept going,
if you lose
man.
by 1 or 50. So.
Yeah. Arkansas shot 41 three-pointers last night. They made 8. Yeah, and shot just.
See, that's the bad idea. Shooting the 41 threes is a good idea. Only making 8's a bad idea.
That is a bad idea. South Carolina also made 8 on 19 three-point attempts, a 42% clip. I'll take that every day.
Arkansas's coach should have just told them to be more efficient.
That's right.
Sounds like there's a messaging mix-up here.
That's right. South Carolina also had 23 assists on 40 made buckets last night and got 64 points from the bench last night. That's a big game for South Carolina as they go to 28-0. Arkansas falls to 18-12. Arkansas was in the mix. They could have used that, unless they get a boost by playing the number 1 team in the country in terms of what the computer says, but you need to win some games. Cut 34, please, Elijah. Dawn Staley on the women coming off the bench and making a difference for her ball club.
I mean, that is probably the biggest strength of our team is the ability to play 10 players and not miss a beat. And I think we just probably don't even have enough time to play even probably like Sakima Walker. She didn't get in very much, but when she got in, she made an impact. So it is that kind of approach to the game in which whenever your number's called, we started a different starter at our 4 spot, and we didn't miss a beat. And I think that type of competition is, it's envied because this team has a way of just challenging themselves individually and then healthy as a collective unit.
Carolina has Tennessee to close out the regular season. That game will tip at noon on Sunday at CLA, and that game today was officially announced as a sellout. The rest of the action for women's basketball on Sunday, Auburn at Florida. Auburn's still alive. Kentucky at LSU. LSU, of course, the only other ranked team in league play right now. Georgia is at Vanderbilt. Vandy having their best season in quite some time. Bama and Texas A&M, 2 NCAA tournament teams, maybe. Alabama's doing all right. Mizzou at State. Arkansas at Ole Miss. I think we'll see a lot of these teams make the NCAA tournament. A lot of them could be playing certainly either to get off the bubble, onto the bubble, a little bit for seeding. Just not a lot of ranked teams this year, just 2 in the top 25, and they're both top 10 teams, of course.
Yeah, the SEC Women's Conference is akin to the Big East men in terms of you have some dominant teams at the top and then a bunch of bubble teams that are just beating up on each other and kind of cannibalizing a little bit.
Before we talk men's basketball, let me remind you again, if you've just tuned in this afternoon, haven't been around any social media or anything else, to get the notification, tonight's Carolina-Clemson baseball game has been postponed. They will play tomorrow as scheduled at 4 o'clock at Segra Park and 2 o'clock Sunday at Doug Kingsmore. Carolina's official announcement today did say that read it to you just so you know exactly what Carolina said about it. A future matchup date at Founders Park is to be determined. Ticket information regarding the Clemson postponed game will be shared at a later date. That's the official word from Carolina baseball a couple hours ago. But for those of you, in fact, that came down right before. It was funny, right? I mean, in the commercial break, before we talked to John Whittle to preview the series, is when the university officially announced it. So I know it's a bummer. Some of you, I hope you're not actually hearing me say this while you're in the car on the way. I kind of doubt it. But no game tonight, unfortunately. So, but they hope to make it up later in the year. But so, again, call it a postponement. It has not been canceled.
Save the email. It's got your tickets on it. Or if you have the physical ticket.
Yeah, if you have the David Ayer ticket.
Somewhere. Yeah, in other words, print it on a full sheet of paper, color ink. Just put it in a place you're not going to forget.
You know what Dave would do, right? Dave would screenshot his e-ticket.
Which has no resale value, by the way.
And
none. That one does.
And then print it.
As you know,
and then they would go like, sir, this was on your phone. Yeah, well, I just wanted to make sure I... I had my ticket.
I just hope everybody needs to have a relationship goal that one day you find someone that loves you the way Dave loves printing off things on paper.
In color.
If you find that, you have found your person.
Yes.
And congrats on a happy life.
That is. That's a good life. That's a good life. Men's basketball, again, we talked a lot about Carolina, Florida already. The EBPI gives Florida a 52% chance, the E being Elijah.
That's right.
Basketball percentage index.
Not electronic. There's nothing electronic about this, baby.
The ESPN BPI, which we just refer to as the BPI.
Yeah, it doesn't get a cool.
Actually gives Carolina a 50.4% chance to win the game. So
this is like when you're copying somebody's work when you're in school, but you're like, hey, don't make it too obvious that you're looking off my paper.
What makes
change some things here.
What makes me nervous for Carolina men's basketball is that, like the other day, the BPI on the 4-Letter Network website gave A&M like a 72% chance to win the game. And the EBPI gave Carolina a 59% chance to win the game. And Carolina won the game. So I worry now about where, your analytics and their analytics collide.
It's on a roll. The EBPI is on a roll right now.
So you got fans kind of nervous all of a sudden, man.
Yeah.
But you can't fudge the numbers.
Nope, you can't. The
but
numbers
52-48. I mean, come on, 52-48.
It's still, to me, it's still a toss-up. These two teams are really even. They just play completely different styles of ball, and Florida just does a couple of things more that I feel like carry over a little better on any given day.
I hear
it makes anybody feel better.
Well, remember, Carolina, I think, had like a 6% chance to win in Knoxville.
And the EBPI didn't give them much of a chance.
And it was about, so that was about
it was similar.
So, hey, there's always a chance. Right? There's always a chance.
Lloyd Christmas taught us anything. It's that
so
you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying. Tomorrow as well, Arkansas will be at Kentucky, LSU at Vanderbilt, Mississippi State at Auburn. That's interesting, but I think State goes to Auburn and doesn't win.
Yeah, State does not play very well on the road. They're the anti-South Carolina Gamecocks. They go
BPI, 86% for Auburn. I don't know what the EBPI has said. I mean, you had time to really.
Oh, it's 91.
Okay. Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't feel good about Mississippi State winning that at all. I'll up the ante there.
All right. A&M's at Georgia. A&M, you better win. Ole Miss at Missouri. Ole Miss, you better win. And then the heavyweight matchup in the league this weekend. Of course, Florida-Carolina is a pretty good heavyweight matchup, too, in my opinion. But Tennessee, number 4 in the country, at number 14, Alabama. Bama minus 2.5 on the betting line. And a 64% chance on the BPI.
I'll give Tennessee a 54% chance to win.
In the meantime, that's our drive around the SEC brought to you by Herndon. But let's hit it and get you ready to have some fun tomorrow.
It's time to give away a pair of tickets to the Battle of Bull Street for Saturday. Call now at 803-404-6100 and test your Carolina baseball knowledge on the Postgame Show.
Good luck. Call us up. Be right back.
Welcome back in. Hey, I saw lettuce a week and a day ago. Right down the street, right down there at the Senate. They were fun, man. That was good stuff. Welcome back in. Final few minutes of the postgame show on this Friday, March the 1st. Once again, if you have just tuned into the program, getting in the car after work on a long day, South Carolina Clemson baseball will not be played tonight at 7. It has been raining all day in Columbia, South Carolina, and it continues. I can't tell now, actually. The curtain has been drawn, so I can't quite look out and see if it's still raining. You want me to look real quick?
Go for it.
Hang on. You talk while I...
Yeah, so Jay's going to look, our expert meteorologist, Jay Phillips, looking out the window.
Oh, man. Wow. Yeah, it's raining a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's your forecast. It's raining a lot right now.
Again, I'm like Ollie. Just, it's easy.
It's raining.
It is raining. All right. We got Charles. We've got Mark. We've got Jason. And they all will have a chance. Well, we hope. I don't know. I don't know if Mark and Jason will have a chance. It depends on if Charles gets this right. Here's how this works. We have you call in random order. Well, not random order, in specific order of 1, 2, 3. I'm going to ask a 3-answer multiple choice question. If Charles gets it right, Charles wins. Charles gets it wrong, we go to Mark, and so on and so forth.
Like the old NFL overtime rules.
Yeah, something like that, yes.
Sudden death.
And these are for this is for a pair of tickets to tomorrow's game, which I sincerely hope will be played. It is still fully scheduled for 4 p.m. tomorrow.
Your chance is better that it's played tomorrow than it is tonight.
That is 1,000% fact, and I'm a guy who usually says you can't go more than 100%.
The EBPI just cranked that out.
It just blew up.
Yeah. It's smoking.
It's so
I have
right.
to call the fire department.
It
it's
is
rough.
so right. So let's bring Charles on to get the final trivia question of the day. Hey, Charles, how are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you all are doing well as well.
We are.
And
yeah.
everybody else out there.
Yeah. All right,
and anybody who's not doing well, I hope you're doing well very soon.
There you go. There. See, look at that. That's positivity.
I like
right there. Right? Way to go.
That'll bode well for you.
Although Charles may make Mark and Jason feel bad in just a minute. I don't know. We'll find out. All right. So here's the question.
Maybe if I win, I bring one of them along with me.
Well, that would be very nice of you.
It is a pair.
All right. So, but I need all 3 of you to listen carefully, okay? Because there is a process of elimination of sorts. Here we go. All right, Charles. Between 2010 and 2012, South Carolina went on an NCAA record winning streak in postseason play. How many games in a row did they win? A, 20, B, 22, C, 24. Charles, you get to answer first.
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, listen, Carolina went on an NCAA winning streak between 2010 and 2012. How many games in a row did they win in postseason play? 20, 22, 24. Be quick, Charles.
22.
22 is correct. Way to go, Charles.
Ding, ding, ding.
Nice work. Nice work.
Awesome.
Yeah, they
Thank
started
you.
with Arizona State in the 2010 College World Series. They then beat Oklahoma, Clemson twice, UCLA twice, then Georgia Southern, Stetson twice, Connecticut twice, Texas A&M, Virginia twice, Florida twice, Manhattan, Clemson twice again. Man, Carolina fans loved that. Oklahoma twice, and ended it with Florida.
That's a good week to bring that Clemson game up.
Yeah, so
I remember Baylor ball very, 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 very well.
Yeah, win anyway and all that. Yeah, win for Baylor. That was a heck of a time. That's right.
My first time I ran in. Sorry, go ahead. I ran into Ray Tanner at a restaurant the night before they went out to Omaha in 2010, and it was very special.
Yeah, no, that's good stuff. All right, Charles, we got all his intel. He's good to go. All right, Mark, Jason. Sorry, boys. I am. See,
I mean, Charles came in spreading so much positivity.
Yeah, man, he did.
But he might. He said he might bring him along. It's
I don't know how that works. I don't know if he knows Mark or Jason.
You might just got to start going through the Rolodex of how many Marks and Jasons he has and be like, hey, you didn't call into 107.5.
It wasn't you, was it? So I really am. It's seriously, it's a bummer for tonight. I get it. They do want to make it up. So, again, if you do have a hard copy of that ticket, again, I don't know how many of those are left anymore in the world, but if you have a hard copy of the ticket, please do not lose it. It will still be valid, hopefully, at some point. And, again, if you've got an e-ticket, keep it in your phone wallet. Or maybe you actually should pull a David Dare and print it off and keep the barcode. I don't know, man. I don't know.
Dave might be ahead of the curve on you, actually. Jokes on
postponement tickets, just so you know. But no, seriously, don't delete it or anything like that. Keep it handy. They want to play again. 4 o'clock tomorrow, 2 o'clock in Clemson on Sunday. So a full weekend of action. Men's basketball tomorrow, women's basketball, both noon tips at CLA this weekend. Lots going on. We'll have full reaction for you on Monday. Be safe out there. Stay safe in this rain especially, and we'll see you Monday. And one final note on this Friday to head into the weekend. That's about our great friends at AAA Heating and Air. Again, we're in that kind of period, y'all, where it's cold and it's hot and it's cold and it's hot. Beat the seasons with AAA Heating and Air all across the Midlands of South Carolina. And is it time for a system upgrade? You ready for something new? Do you even know how old your system is? Maybe you moved into the house. You're like, well, I think it works okay. I haven't had it checked in a while. If you don't know any of these things, get a free replacement estimate today. Just log on to AAAtoday.com. That's AAAtoday.com. Punch in a few bits of quick info, and Roy and Dana and their computer system, kind of like the EBPI, will give you
just more scientific.
That's right. We'll give you a free estimate. And don't worry about how much it costs, because they've got great budget options for you right now. No payments, no interest for 12 months. That's right. You heard me right. And a 15-year parts and labor guarantee. Stay comfortable all year long with my great friends at AAA Heating and Air.